Hi, I'm Coach Strain from Handley Tigers, and you're watching the Average Joe's Sports Talk. I'm Coach Strain of the Handley Tigers.
Coach, appreciate you having us out here. I've noticed what you've done here since you've gotten back here, since your second stint here, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. You're coming off a state championship. But before we get into all that meat and potatoes, Coach, and this beautiful facility you have here, I want to thank you for letting us come out, first of all. And second of all, I want you to take me back to the early days. I want to know about where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
Well, first of all, my family's in the construction business. So if you go anywhere between Woodland and Weedow, you see a big shop sitting over there on the right. So my dad has bulldozers, excavators, and stuff like that. So I've always been involved in some type of construction work. Played high school sports all the way up to my 10th grade year at Woodland High School. I always wanted to be a basketball or football player. I always worked on it extremely hard. My end of my 10th grade year, I moved to Randolph County High School and played for Coach Ron Waters at Randolph County High School. In 1979, we were state runner-ups in football. I went from there and I walked on at the University of Alabama, and that would been around 81 football season is what I did there. But I always had a background of sports. My dad used to take me to the local gym. We have a gym here in Randolph County that's the first gym that was ever built. It was built in 1939 at New Hope. We lived in that community there, and he always took me to that gym. It had old wood backboards, and it doesn't look like a gym. It just looks like a huge old wooden building. That's really where I started learning, the stuff athletically wise and what I wanted to do and wanted to excel at. I always have been a competitor and like to compete, and so that's the reason why I'm coaching today and what I'm doing.
No doubt. So during those early years, you pretty much played sports your whole entire life.
I played my whole entire life. I played everything from midget football to little league baseball, basketball, if there was any type of basketball before you could get into high school sports. And then, of course, once from the 7th grade, I played all three sports that was offered at the high school, which was basketball, baseball, and football at the time.
Thinking back now and seeing where your life has gotten to this point, and how important is it for kids nowadays to be a part of a team at that young in life where they learn things?
Well, I think football or any sport teaches you so many things in discipline. First of all, it teaches you how to get along with other people. I think that's one of the huge benefits to being a team member. It's how are you going to work with other people, but also it teaches you work ethic. It teaches you sacrifice and dedication, and it teaches you how to get over yourself, not to be jealous of somebody else, because that's what team sports are truly about. And I think that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with it. I love the competition as I've already mentioned, and really love to compete in anything that I did. Matter of fact, at Christmas we can't even play dominoes or rook when all the kids come in, because it's going to be a fight, because all our kids are going to try to win. That's just the way that it is. My wife makes a rule at Christmas time: nobody can play dominoes, cards, shuffleboard, whatever you want to play. We can't play. But then later in my life, once I got into coaching, the part that I really love is taking a kid that you get to touch their lives, be an influence, to those kids. Some of them, the family network or the structure is no longer. Not a lot of time is it not there where they have both mom and dad at home. So I get to see that part. I like to grow close to kids and try to influence them in a positive way. And I think that's the reason why the good Lord put me where I'm at, to do what I'm doing.
Now, it's funny you said it, because that was my next question. Was you've influenced a lot of kids' lives, down in this part of the state in a positive way. But who was someone that really influenced your life when you was younger?
Well, obviously the coaches that always had a big key to my life, that was a big influence things that we did. But Tom Burnside was somebody that was my 4-H leader here. That's somebody that's not even dealing with coaching that had a big impact on my life because it was still back to that competition. I love the 4-H competition. Yes. That was in my early grammar school years. But he was a big influence to me. But I can name numerous coaches throughout the years that you always think back on that had a lot to do with you being successful. And obviously most of them are your high school coaches that you've been around.
Right. Now let's fast forward to your high school career, and you get out and you go into college. Did you go in with the mindset that you were going to try to coach, or did you have some other aspect?
I really didn't originally intend to go into the coaching realm. Matter of fact, I went to the University of Alabama, and I was in civil engineering, which would go along with my family business. And I thought that, we was already doing road construction and already doing water main utilities, sewers, stuff like that. So it was just something that we built lakes, subdivisions. So I thought that civil engineering. Stayed in it about 2 years and just wasn't happy. I didn't like the coursework they was doing, which it was a lot harder than PE too. But I kind of made my mind up then that I was going to change and go into coaching. And matter of fact, even some of those years, I did some coaching on the side that I would assist with different things that girls basketball, for example, in my early life that I did, and then didn't even realize that I would later become a girls basketball coach.
Now that brings me over into what was your first job? And when you got out of school, what was your first job you took right out of school?
My first job was here at Hanley High School. I believe it was 1987, if I'm not mistaken. It's 86, 87, somewhere in that time. I got hired here as an assistant coach. Then I got to coach on the varsity football. I was the running back coach and the defensive end coach then. But I also got placed into the head basketball role, boys basketball, my first year. It was here at Handley High School. Sure was. So I've been coaching basketball for really as long as I've ever coached football, to be honest with you, the whole time.
All right, let me ask you a question about that. That first year being thrown to the fire, what age were you?
Oh, 25, maybe 24. 25, maybe. I really don't remember.
Being that young and being cast into that role, let's say the head job at basketball, I know you probably, if you had to look back at it now, most coaches I've asked that's got head jobs at that point said I was young and dumb and stuff like that. But what were some of those nuggets that you got out of those trials and tribulations that you had at that time?
Well, it's based on from your experience, the things that, that you've run into before. And a lot of times the stuff that I would learn from other coaches, sometimes it's not how they did it, and this is the way I want to do it. Sometimes it was things that I realized as a player that wasn't very productive, and that I just didn't want to do my program this way when we did those things. But, of course, when you come out of college, dealing with being a high school basketball coach right off the bat, I had over 100 kids try out for basketball the first night. First night. Everybody come out of the woodwork, 100, right at 100 kids. And I didn't even bring a basketball. Didn't even bring a basketball to practice. We started running from the start, and we ran till we got to 15 players. Everybody kept running out of the gym. Now, I'm not that kind of coach today. I don't think you can do that to those kids today. And really nobody that left the gym that night hurt me, except got down to about the 17th player, and probably my best player headed out the door at 17. Of course, he come back, and the next day he wanted back on the team, and I wouldn't allow him. Now, I learned a lot from that night. There's a point of being too tough, and there's a point that you're not tough enough. So you have to figure that out as a coach. And I think that was one of the early experiences that I learned from.
That's awesome. See, I've never heard that before. No basketball, 100 kids.
Right at 100.
100 kids coming out for basketball.
Yeah.
Was it that big in this area at that time?
Well, everybody was. What happened during the time, the previous coach that was here basically didn't allow them to do a whole lot basketball-wise, and he had just left. And so it was the first time that they had the opportunity to do that. And it was right at 100 kids. It was a bunch of them.
At that time, at that age, did you think you were going to lean more to the basketball role?
Well, I in some respects, I was interested in basketball because I'd always played basketball. I always played basketball, but I played college football. But, you always want to go play college somewhere. When you're 5'10", you're not going to get too many basketball scholarships. So, I had to go to the football. Unless you're unbelievable. and so I went for the football route is what I ended up doing. But, when I came into high school, I was coaching high school. I was the head basketball coach and assistant football. And eventually, when I went to Woodland, I was the head football coach. I was the head boys basketball coach and the head girls basketball coach all at the same time. Now, the first year I was at Woodland, that was not the case. Billy Walls was the guy. But a year or two later, he resigned, and I took over the boys' job too.
All right. Now, at Woodland, you were very successful, won 2 state championships in girls basketball. But now, let me ask you a question about those years. And you and I talked about this off the camera about, the luxury of having your daughter, the number 1 and 2 scores in the state of Alabama history there. Talk about those times, and did you honestly think, hey, man, I'm fixing to be, this is my career now as girls basketball?
I was the head football coach, and we'd already been successful actually before it came through. So when my son played, Trey, when he was a sophomore, we played in 2004. We played for the state championship in 2004 and really thought we was going to have our best football team in 2005. Ended up getting devastated by injury that year. We lost 6 of our main guys for the season. And so I really had my best nucleus. Then we go back in 2006 and go back to the state championship game. Played Leroy both times and lost less than a touchdown. Both years, 2004 and 2006. And so and had some freakish things happen in a couple of those games that really cost us the game. But, that's where you learn from. And it helps me later down the road when you get into state championship games. You don't want some of these crazy things to happen to you. But, but I knew I was a football coach too now, the whole way through. But I enjoyed my kids competing. And as you said, my daughter Courtney is the all-time leading scorer in the state of Alabama, and Leah is the second-time all-leading scorer in Alabama. I had the luxury of them getting to play together when Courtney was a junior in basketball. Leah, my youngest daughter, was a 7th grader. And so, matter of fact, there goes Courtney outside the door. You may call her and get her in.
As we were talking about this, we have a very special young lady to sit in with us, and I'm going to let Coach introduce this young lady.
First of all, this is my oldest daughter, Courtney Spruce. She happened to walk up while I was doing the interview just then, and we was just beginning to talk about her, to be honest with you. And he was asking about how I got into how to make the transition from football to basketball. Then anyway, he found out a while ago that you was the all-time leading scorer in Alabama High School Athletic Association history with 5,283 points. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's correct. Anyway, I'll tell you a couple of funny stories about her. And you was asking how was I chose to do this or one thing or another, and what happened in the course. To give you a little brief history of what went on at Woodland. When she was a junior, I had a younger daughter that was a 7th grader that had played basketball all her life as well, played travel ball, and plus I had 3 nieces. So there was a total of 5 string girls that was because my 2 brothers, one had twins, and my other brother had a girl that was in 8th grade. 3 of them was in the 7th grade. One of them was 8th grader, and she was a junior at the time. So they got to play 2 years together, basically, is what happened. And anyway, so it was a big deal to us. Girls basketball was, we would have huge crowds every time they played because they played differently than the average girl. Matter of fact, her sophomore year, Courtney averaged 40.6 points a game.
Jeez.
Is how many points that she averaged. And so, of course, she got recruited all over the place, and she eventually signed with Nell Fortner and Auburn. But I'll tell you a funny story about Courtney to start with. She had just graduated the 6th grade, and it's right about this time period of year, it's the end of May, going into June, and she had just been in the 6th grade 2 weeks ago, and I take her to basketball camp at JSU. And I go up there to JSU, and we've played 2 or 3 games, and we was actually at Pleasant Valley High School. And one of the JSU assistant coaches come over and got me and said, "Hey, Coach, we just changed your schedule. You're due right now. Go to JCA. You're going to play in a game right now at JCA. Hurry up, get over there, because all of JSU's coaching staff is going to be over there. You're going to play some big school out of Birmingham. I said, well, wait a minute now. I said, so why am I having played probably the best school in the tournament and down here at the play day, and I ain't got no older girls on my team. Why am I going over here? He said, well, Coach, head coach Diagnostic, is that what his name was? Coach D. He said he is going to be over there. He's going to offer one of your girls a scholarship, a full scholarship. I said, oh, come on now. I said, who is he going to offer? I said, I got a junior and senior, and I don't even know who it is. So I said, that's a bunch of bull. He said, Coach, they're waiting on you right now at JCA. So we jump on the bus. We drive to Pleasant Valley to go to JCA and pull up. And when I pull up out there, I got two officials. Rusty Burroughs was standing out there, and he says, hey, Coach, you better hurry up. They're waiting on you in there. He said, matter of fact, Coach is fixing to offer one of your kids. I said, one of my kids? I ain't got nobody who can play college basketball. So I walk in there, and there's all of JSU's women's basketball staff sitting in there. And so we go up there to the game, and they're doing warm-ups.
Was this Coach Austin was there?
No, this was Coach Dinos.
Oh, okay.
After Coach Austin.
That's great.
And so Coach D, which we refer to him because I can't pronounce his real name, he comes up to me during warm-up and said, yeah, we're fixing to offer one of y'all. I said, who are you going to offer? He said, your daughter, Coach. I said, Coach, she's a sixth grader.
I was 12.
She was 12 years old. And so
Now, I was the same height as a 12-year-old.
yeah,
He was this high?
I was 5'8".
She's
in
pretty
the
much
sixth grade,
grown.
but I was teeny tiny, skinny.
Oh, okay. I got
But
you.
I was tall.
but now she could shoot a jump shot, and that
she
was her
averaged 40 a
forte
game, I'm sure.
mid-range jumper. The rumor about her was at Woodland we had a lobby at the front end of the gym, and one side was the men's bathroom and one side was the women's bathroom. Of course, it's out of the gym.
Correct.
And then you turn into the bathroom and turn back to your right. The rumor was up there she could shoot it from the last stall in the women's bathroom, and it's still going to go in.
It's still going in.
It's still going. It don't matter where she shot it from; it was going in.
Man, that's awesome.
But it was a pleasure to have my daughter and daughters and nieces to all play on the same basketball team together.
So you got an offer in the 6th grade.
Which I don't even know if it technically went down as an offer once
they
they found out my age. But
Yeah.
but that's when it really began.
Really?
And then
Let me ask you a question. Growing up with this young man beside you here in the same household with you, and knowing that, just by talking to him in the short, brief time I've been talking to him, I can tell he's a disciplinarian guy and he's no-nonsense guy. How did that help mold you into the young lady you are and coach today?
Well, first off, as a player, it was everything as to who I was because he was not only my coach but also my father. I think about growing up outside of sports. At home, we didn't lay around. We weren't lazy. We had things to do. We cut grass. I remember cutting grass, starting, I don't know, 7, 8 years old. But even to this day, I enjoy doing that because that's what I was brought up doing. As a coach, I think that I'm so much like him, and I've heard it from many people that we have the same coach, not only the same coaching style, but the same mannerisms on the sideline. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
matter of fact, somebody took a picture. Tell her about the picture.
there's a picture of us. It was from 2 years ago in the area championship, and I'm actually squatted down on the
Right
sideline.
beside me.
And he's sitting in the chair, on the
So
basketball.
now
court.
I'm her assistant coach, by the way.
That's awesome.
So I sat on the bench with her now.
Our
That's
facial
awesome.
expression is
Exactly
identical.
the same.
And
Really?
I don't remember, or I don't know what actually had happened in the game. I don't think it was a positive.
No, it wasn't
because both of us were just like our mouths were kind of open, and we were identical.
That's awesome.
Identical. So I credit him for obviously not only the player that I was, but for the coach that I am. Not saying that I'm any decent coach whatsoever. I'm very young in my career, just finished my 5th year, but I do try to mimic a lot of things that he does coaching style-wise because he's obviously been very successful with it.
Well, let me ask you a question. How many times do you catch yourself, maybe daily? It could be daily, it could be weekly. I'm imagining it's probably daily. You're like, oh, now it makes sense. Oh, that's why he did that. Or, oh, that's why we did those things.
Right, all the time. And, And I hear a lot of people say, and especially when I was still in high school, well, you just don't understand right now, or you'll understand one day once it's over. And that's the truth. There's a lot of things that he made us do, whether at practice or at home, that didn't make sense to me at the time. I had no idea what the purpose of it was, but now as a coach, everything he did, the way he did it, there was a reason for it. And I see that now.
No doubt. I gotta, this is kind of off the topic, but I gotta know, how intense was the pickup games with you and your cousins and sisters? I gotta hear this. I know y'all got some stories.
Throw my brother in there, and we had other guy cousins, and
They joined in.
And then, look, they all played basketball.
Did y'all run full court together?
well, my brother, and not only my dad, but I credit my brother a lot for the player that I was and the player that my sister was, because he did not treat us as though we were females. We were treated as though we were one of the guys, and I think that had a lot to do with our success that we did have as high school players, because we were used to playing against 16, 17, 18-year-old guys who are strong and a lot quicker and can jump higher than us. And so when you go and play against your average high school girl, not that it was easy, but it wasn't a guy that you were facing.
100%. Like I said, Handley Tigers, a real good friend of ours, been on our show. My daughter worships her. But it's the same case with her and her brother Brady, the quarterback at Gadsden City. I think he's going to go to West Florida and play football. But Kevin, their dad's coach, Coach Stroop, he's like, it's almost a fist fight every time they play one-on-one.
I've already told you we can't play rook or dominoes at Christmas.
We've been in a few fist fights.
That's why I wanted to hear.
But tell you a couple.
Did you have to monitor it?
I was one man too. What you talking about?
Nice. That's awesome.
It was Mama having to.
Yeah, it was usually Mom having to mediate.
I love it.
Till it's done. Tell you a couple other few things just off topic that deals with her. Anyway, make a long story short. No telling how many times in pickup games she goes somewhere else to another gym. Nobody knows who she is, and it's all men. And so they go out there and they choose their team, and they're picking teams. And she's always the last one picked.
Always.
Playing with a man's ball.
Mistake. It was a mistake. And then some guys say, well, I got to guard you. And
yeah. Well,
next thing, go ahead.
The funny thing about this, but that has happened my whole life. But a few years ago, I'm 29, about to be 30 years old, so I'm far removed from actually my playing days. But my husband and I, which we haven't recently, because I told you earlier I'm pregnant. We play a lot of pickup ball at our church, and this is when we were actually living in Oxford a few years ago. And we started this pickup routine, every Tuesday and Thursday night, and all these men from our church would come out, and even the community and whatnot. And my husband Dalton obviously knew that I could play, but what he would do is he would be a captain, and he knew I would get picked last, so he would pick all the best guys first. Because no one was going to pick me, and he always knew I'd be left last. So then he'd pick me on his team, so he would have the loaded team.
I'd have a bunch of rangers out there.
I went to buy her a car one time, and go in there and buy a car. And I actually bought my truck that I got now and her first car at the same time, and got in there and was Jewing with them, And of course, they eventually asked my name, and anyway, people kind of know or kind of don't know, but somebody in the dealership, hey, ain't you the girl that plays basketball, And of course, those salesmen that was selling us the car said, you a basketball player? Yeah, I'm a basketball player. And, of course, I'm trying to Jew with him. And he makes a smart comment. I tell you what, I'll knock $3,000 more off your car if you can beat me in one-on-one in the basketball in the back. in the back of the car lot. Did it not happen?
That's a true story.
And so we load up, and here we're going out there. We're going to knock 3 games. I've already Jewed him down. We almost basically already
where you need to be.
Needed to be anyway. And we headed out the back door, and the manager of the store found it, went and Googled her who she was, and he would not allow the salesman.
We didn't get to play.
So didn't get to play.
Well, that dude was supposed to lose money on that deal. He's going to lose his commission that month. That's awesome. I know you may be busy, so I got to ask a few more questions before you get out of here. Those times when you guys were playing over there, How special is that, even to this day, for you to be having your dad coach and then your sister there and then your cousins as well?
I mean, it's hard to describe, to be honest with you. And it's something that I look back on a lot and wish that I could go back to those times. Not that I have any regrets other than, my teams didn't actually win it. My sister's teams did. That's a regret of mine. But some of the best times. I mean, you can't ask for a better situation than to have your dad as your coach, your sister as your point guard, and 3 of your cousins on the floor with you as well. And then, I ended up going to Auburn. I graduated early from Auburn, had another year or 2 of eligibility to play, and never thought I'd get to play with my sister again. But Coach Petrie at JSU called and allowed me that opportunity to go and have another year with my sister at JSU. So there's not many people who can say they play on the same high school team with their sibling, much less college. So I feel very blessed and very fortunate to have had that opportunity.
That is awesome. Now let's fast forward a little bit, where we're at now. How special is it to be, let's say, in the same realm, a coaching realm, in the same high school?
Right.
You basically came up from
Well,
there.
first off, I don't know if you realize that I never planned on going into teaching and coaching. That was never my plan. I was planning on going to PT school, physical therapy school. And then when I finished at Auburn, that's when, JSU called me and said, if you want to come play, we've got a scholarship for you. So they don't have physical therapy school there, so I had to do something else. So I just got my education master's, not planning on using it. Well, here I am, just completed my 5th year.
She had offers from 5 universities across the country, one of them being Stanford,
In California.
to come coach.
Palo Alto.
Where was others?
Texas Tech was one of my big ones.
Some school out of New York.
Belmont in Nashville.
All of them offered
They
her a
wanted you to come
job.
coach?
Yes, wanted to come coach directly out of college. No, I'm not going. I said, Courtney, you're crazy. Go to Stanford. They're winning national championships every year. Go. Do that. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Well, she comes back here. Of course, my superintendent knows about her. So he calls an officer job. He actually asked me, through me, whatever, do you want a job? Nope. Not going into coaching.
You did?
I turned it down.
Not going into coaching. Not doing it. Okay.
What year are we talking?
This is my 5th year at Hanley, so this would have been summer of 2016, or really spring of 2016.
Okay, so you basically said no chance.
Well, next thing I know, and everybody thinks she got her job here because of me, that I went out there and hired her. Well, she told me, no, it's done. I'm getting ready for football season. I guess it was during the summer.
It was in late June or early July when this happened.
And she's not hired here, and I'm down here working. I think she comes by down here, if I remember correctly. Oh, by the way, I'm going for an interview with Mr. Markham today. Fixing to hire me for so-and-so. I had no clue. So don't think that this Coach Strain, got her the job here. She did it on her own.
I just had a sudden change of heart, and I really don't know what did it for me, but I thought, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. There's so many things that have lined up for me to teaching coach, and so I contacted Mr. Markham and to see if there was still a position available, and he had me come in for an interview, and I got hired as a science teacher because I had all the science background.
Oh,
From undergrad, yes. And then actually was hired as the head volleyball coach to begin with, and then eventually got the, a few weeks later, the girls basketball coaching job as well. So I've done volleyball and girls basketball here for the past 5 years.
Now, were you married at the time then?
I was not.
Okay.
My husband was actually in physical therapy school, so I didn't get to become a physical therapist myself, but I ended up marrying one.
That was my next question, was were you guys located here, or were you going to have to move back here at the time?
Tell them about Dalton, where he played and all that.
My husband, Dalton Spruce, actually played football at JSU, so we met during my time at JSU.
Nice.
So he was on the national championship team.
Okay.
Played slot receiver. And so when we finished there at the same time, he went to Birmingham to go to physical therapy school, and I moved back home to Wedowee. Didn't know what I was going to do. Was trying to figure out, what my career path was going to be. And I ended up taking the job here at Hanley. And so I was here almost 4 years before we got married.
That's awesome. That's really
And
good.
now he works here in Roanoke, runs a clinic here in Roanoke.
That's good. So Coach Andrews sends him over there. I'm just kidding. Well, I know you may be busy, but I appreciate you sitting.
Yes,
in with
sir.
us.
I enjoyed it.
Been
So that was a
very
plus
fun.
to the interview, was it
Never
not?
believe it. Yeah, absolutely. The state's leading scorer and the head girls coach here. And the great stories is my favorite part of it. Well, I appreciate you sitting in with us.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you
I
so
enjoyed
much.
it. Thank you.
All right, Coach. Now, that was truly an honor, man. I really enjoyed that. That was a different aspect from an interview, and it's kind of on the fly. And we didn't want to keep her trapped all day because she's probably busy. But, Coach, let's go back to we were kind of talking about the difference between the football coaching aspect and the basketball coach. My next question to you, did you think that was going to be your long-term job over there at Woodland?
Well, I knew that at the time I stayed 15 years at Woodland is what I stayed. And anyway, my youngest daughter had graduated, and really because of the political structure, something that me and you talked about before. To be a successful coach, you got to have your support, like I have here at Handley High School, and Todd Coe and Chuck Markham, my superintendent. If your leadership is above you as a coach, it's hard to be successful. Because, you know, you're always butting heads over something. And my leadership had changed at Woodland High School. And it was time for me to leave at the time. And it went all the way back to the superintendent's office. Had a great principal, but he ended up leaving. Basically, so everybody left because of the situation that was going on there. So I knew it was time to go. At the time, it was late. Usually most coaches get hired, head football coaches get hired in either Christmas or at the end of school. And this is March, because I had to wait to March because that was the end of girls basketball. We just won a state championship, and I knew it was time to make a move. And the only job I had at that time was the White Plains job, and that I needed open, so I went to get it because I just had to get out of Woodland at the time because of the political structure.
And how was your tenure at White Plains? Like, I know, you know, being successful like you were at Woodland and then getting out when you went to White Plains, how would you describe your tenure there?
Well, I didn't stay but 10 months at White Plains, and I really had at the time that I got the job, had no intention of leaving in 10 months. But I told them in my interview there would be two places that if they called me that I would leave for. Other than that, I wouldn't leave. One of them was Clay Central, and the other one was Handley High School. Be it, I had no idea that the Handley job was going to come open. The Handley job came open right there at the end of school after I'd been there 10 months, and they contacted me, and you know, I hated it because I enjoyed my time at White Plains. The White Plains football program was kind of what I'd inherited at Woodland, to be honest with you. When I started at Woodland, the first day I walked on the field, I had 13 players. And at the time, the scoreboard didn't work, and the grass hadn't been cut all summer, and my lights didn't work on the football field. And I played in 7 days. And so and I played in 7 days at home when I first got hired at Woodland. But the scenario far as the football was similar. So that was a challenge to me. I thought that in the 10 months we'd already made some headway. I think we won 2 games that year, but we probably lost 3 or 4 other ball games by less than a touchdown that year. So I had no intention of leaving in White Plains at the time. But anyway,
that is
good Lord works his plan a lot of times.
You better believe it. Now, when you got the call and you arrived here at Hanley, what was the first early steps you took to build the foundation of what we know Handley football is right now?
Well, but the first of all, you know, anytime there's a coach leave, there's always a disarray to some degree because you have players and coaches that are already loyal to the previous guy that was here, and they don't know what you're like, and they're, you know, you want to come in being a hard disciplinarian, but you got to keep everybody on board. You try to get it all structured to go in one way. And I can remember walking in these 2 double doors to my right, and this was the weight room where we were sitting at the time. And my principal, Greg Foster, brought me in here and asked if I was this very good talent in the room. I told him this is more talent in this room than I've seen in my whole coaching career when I walked in. But the problem that I had the first year was a jealousy issue. There wasn't enough footballs on the field, to be honest with you. And I think that's what our biggest task was when I got here. You know, we had some guys that, hey, I'm just a basketball player. I had to convince them to play. And we had a quarterback that's a big baseball player, had to make sure that he was on, and just putting the pieces of the puzzle together. But the first key is back what we already talked about, back to teamwork. They had to get that unity and that brotherhood on the team. And that was the first major thing that I had to control was the jealousy issue on the team.
Good time to ask this question. What does it take to be a football player for you in this program?
Well, you gotta bring work ethic every single day, and then the attitude and your body language has got to be positive, and you got to be able to get along with them other guys in the locker room, because this thing is a team sport. I very rarely do I kick people off or let people go, but I basically kicked 2 kids off last year. And it's simply because they didn't mesh. It was all about them, and it wasn't about us. And I think we were a better team. We won a state championship last year. Probably wouldn't have if I'd kept those 2 kids. And both of these kids were very talented players. But it's got to be about unity, and it's got to be about brotherhood.
Now, here's a question that I ask, and sometimes coaches tiptoe around it, but knowing your character, I don't think you will. What do you expect out of parents that when they turn their kid over to play for you? I mean, I've had different answers with this question.
Well, the biggest thing, I think that first, if I was a parent of a kid that played for me, I'm going to treat their kids just like they're my kids. Is the best thing that I can tell them. I'm going to be hard on them. I'm going to be tough. And, I'm going to holler at them. I'm going to fuss at them. Now, if they probably do not need to be down here with me if they can't handle that criticism from me. But then again, when we get on Friday nights and somebody in the stands is hollering at them and criticizing, I'm the first one that's going to take it. That makes me madder on the sidelines than any other time. And, it's one thing for me to get after them, but they don't know what me and that player has been through on that practice field, the fire they went through. So they're not going to criticize them from the stands if I can do anything about it there. And it's just like a father-son relationship, in my opinion, is the best way to describe it.
I like that a lot. Real quick, Bucky McMillan was on the show before, and he said something very, very similar to what you said. He said parents judge 99% of their perception between those white lines.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But he said what parents don't realize is, no, he said 100% of their perception is what goes on between those white lines. But what those parents don't understand, that's less than 1% of this program.
Oh, you're exactly right.
The weight room, the walkthroughs, the meals, the lifting, the conditioning, the practices, less than 1%. But you're exactly right. Now, let's tail end that one, but this is one that I think the parents that will be watching this, the kids that's going to be playing for you. Now, what should those parents and then those players expect out of you as a coach? What do you guarantee they're going to get from you?
Well, they ought to see me work. How can I expect my kids to work in this program if I don't work on our field, we don't work on our facilities, we don't work on being better people each and every day? They got to see me put in the time and effort and that I care, because that's the kid. That's the key. A kid doesn't care what you're trying to teach him until he knows that you care about them. And I think that's what I have to show to each one of my players, that I care for each of them. Now, look, they may not agree with me on their playing time. And believe me, I want to win too bad to mistreat somebody. If you're the best kid, the best player, no matter who you are, no matter what your skin color is, best kid's going to play and give us the best opportunity. And I think that's the way life is. And it should be. That's not the way our society wants it to be anymore. Right. But the kids that deserve to be out there playing, I think that they want to see me being fair and treat their kids the way they should be. They don't always agree with you. And parents are easily to get mad at us as coaches strictly based on playing time on the field. Well, he didn't play my son, or, then I'm mad at the coach, so I don't like Coach Strang. Well, I just answered the question. If he does what he's supposed to do, and if he is the best, then he'll get his play.
He's going to play. That makes a lot of sense. Now, Coach, when you got here, people know Hanley all over the state now. What has it taken to get the program to where it is now? And you coming off the state title and how special that was. Just the program in general, the work and that you guys have put in as coaches and the players to get this thing to where it is right now since you've been here this second time around.
Well, we've already mentioned several of the components and traits that it took there, but it was the weight room is number one here at any program. I feel like last year we won the state championship because we were more physical than anybody else was.
I agree with that.
And we like football. you better be able to run the ball and you better be able to stop the run. And I think the weight room has a lot to do with that. Our strength and conditioning program is huge. But I think the schemes that you do on the field, it does not matter how much I know about the game of football until our kids understand what you're doing on the field and they understand it. You can only be as complicated as what they comprehend on the field. And so I think that comes into your work ethic on the field and the long practice hours that you have on the field in order to be successful. And then it comes back to, and I think that one of the reasons we won it in 16 and we won it in 20 was because nobody cared who got the credit for what it was. There was enough credit to go around when you win a state championship. Tay Meadows, everybody knows who he is from last year, but he had 5, 6, 7 offensive linemen, sometimes in a double butt sniffer, folks blocking, wide receivers blocking for him. It was knocking a hole for him to cut up in. They could care less if he was the one scoring a touchdown because the ultimate day was winning a state championship was enough glory for everybody.
The whole team celebrates.
That's exactly right.
Now, with the success you've come, this is another tough question that I always like to hear from coaches. How do you battle complacency and media outlets and newspapers and television shows telling them they're the best? How do you?
Well, the 2 hardest years that I've had coaching, the hardest year I ever had coaching was in 2013 to 2014 in girls basketball. We'd already mentioned basketball earlier that, the string girls played. And when we played, we went all over the Southeast to play. And we'd go pick out the strongest, toughest teams during the summer to play. And we tried to beef our schedule up as much as we could to help them. But the hardest year that I had that year was in 2014 because we'd already won it in 2013, had everybody returning in 2014. And it's the same scenario that I face this year. I've got a huge number of kids returning. I lost 12 seniors last year, but you still have to keep the hunger. You still have to be, the work ethic still has to be there. We can't be satisfied with where we are. The complacency that you mentioned. And the biggest challenge that we had in 14 was that. I mean, we lost one game that year to Lauderdale County at their place in a game that we probably shouldn't have lost. But that game, that one loss, sometimes, and it's like the loss to Clay Central this last year, you're blowing everybody out. Sometimes it's good to get a checkup to see how tough you really are, see how you're going to respond. Until somebody beats you, you don't know that feeling if you just steamroll everybody the whole way. So you have to play a tough schedule to get there.
Maybe their attention span comes back.
Yeah, to them, and the focus comes back.
And those coaching moments in the film breakdowns a lot more.
Oh, you're right.
Now, like you just said, you become the mountain. Instead of climbing the mountain, you become the mountain.
Now everybody gets to shoot at you though. Now, so now everybody's got your target on your back, and so.
Let's swap gears here a little bit, Coach. This is one of my favorite parts about this. I'm gonna throw you some curveballs in here, Coach. What is your favorite sports movie? We're gonna find out about your personality right here.
Favorite sports movie. Now you said sports movie.
Sports movie.
Well, Remember the Titans has to be up there.
Very good.
Remember that. But my favorite movie of all time, you'd probably never guess.
Happy Gilmore.
No. Favorite movie of all time is Sergeant Alvin York. It's made back in the 40s or the 50s. It's about a Tennessee farmer.
Write it down. Alvin
York.
All right.
He was a hellraiser, drunk, got struck by lightning. He was a hill farmer, poor, worked his butt off. When he got struck by lightning, he heard the church singing in the rain. He walks in the church, gets saved, becomes a conscientious objector, gets drafted in World War I, goes over and fights in World War I, don't know that he'll shoot a rifle, and he becomes a Congressional Medal of Honor winner because of the way his work ethic was and the smarts from living out here in the country.
That's awesome.
So that's my favorite movie. And it's in black and white.
Well, I read
that's the reason why they got all those medical hospitals named after him in Tennessee now.
So it's actually a true story.
Oh, it's a true story.
Yeah. Well, I wrote that down. I'm gonna check that out myself.
Alvin York.
Coach, where is your favorite vacation spot? Take the
Ah,
family to.
anywhere that's got a couch and air conditioner. My wife likes to go. My wife likes to go to the beach and go lay out in the sun from 8 o'clock in the morning till the sun goes down.
Good, man. I can't do it.
But I'm out here in the sun, the turf every single day. Long as she's happy and they got a couch and air conditioning and I get to eat at night, I'm happy.
You can unwind. There you go. Coach, favorite band or group ever?
Woo. That's a hard one.
Really?
I'm really not a big music lover. I like Hank Williams Jr. and David Allen Cole is probably would be our folks.
I got you. Now, I usually call this pregame meal, but let's just call it meal. What's your favorite meal to eat?
Spaghetti.
Really? The homemade or just
Homemade. My wife's spaghetti.
There you go. Who is your favorite athlete of all time? Somebody that you looked at over the years like, man, that dude's just my favorite. He may not be the best. He's just your favorite.
Well, this is fictitious. Everybody would say Rocky if it's a fictional character. But, you have to kind of look back at what the Manning's family has done.
Yeah.
And, they got a son that's being recruited right now. Just obviously, the dad, Archie Manning, obviously it reminds, and we're nowhere compared to that, but I kind of look at that. He obviously has done something right to train his three sons to be the quarterback. And now is passed down to their sons to be at that level. I'm sure the Manning family is talented, no doubt. But it had to come with work ethic to get them where it is.
They're not athletic, really.
So those are some of the folks that I look up to.
No doubt. What's your favorite TV show of all time?
Andy Griffin.
Andy Griffin. He's about everybody's for real. What's Coach's dream car? If you could have keys to any car.
Well, right now, if you walked up and you saw my truck got hit by a deer last week, my dream truck is a Chevy 4x4.
There you go. The Chevy 4x4.
That's right.
I like it. This is always my favorite one right here. Coach, give me a guilty pleasure, something you like that people would not have a clue that you're digging into that.
I'm about to die right now. I'd like to have a dip in my mouth.
There we go. All right. So we can get off that now. We had to find out a little bit about your personality. So heading into this off season, you guys didn't have a spring, did you?
Did not have a spring.
So you're gonna take the extra week.
Gonna take the extra week and the extra game.
Okay.
Because we're playing in the championship challenge against Gunnerville in 0 week.
Okay.
And this has never been allowed before in the Athletics Association. So 0 week is
You get to get the guys in.
you either had to either play a real game 0 week or you could play a jamboree.
Okay.
But the Athletic Association never allowed you to play a week earlier than that 0 week, no matter what. So this is the first time. So we are going to play a scrimmage game against Randolph County High School. I think it's on the 13th of August.
Will that be here or at?
It'll be at Randolph County.
Okay.
And then we'll play at Crampton Field,
Okay.
Crampton Bowl, on the 19th on a Thursday night against Gunnerville.
Okay. I may make that one myself right there. I went down and watched Iverson Hooks and Pike Road last year play Montgomery Catholic. Now, heading into this offseason, let's catch everybody up to speed with the program right now. Heading into this offseason, what is your main goals that you need to get done as a head coach coming off the state championship game, heading into this offseason? Because, like you said, now everything's moved a week earlier than planned as normal.
Well, one thing that we bypassed COVID, so I guess COVID is over. So that those restrictions is the first thing, but it put us behind because we didn't have spring last year. So we're going to get back to a normal summer workout thing better than it was last year. But the biggest thing that I got to do is I got to find my four linebackers that plays on our defense because of graduation. Because I had a Christian Jones and a Jake Cottle and a Dylan Brooks and a C.J. Allen that all got scholarship offers. And,
Those are some dudes.
Those are some dudes that are all going to go play college somewhere else. Dylan, of course, everybody knows is going to Auburn, but them other guys were good too.
Really
That's one of my main priorities. Offensively, I've lost my quarterback, but I got 2 talented young men coming back in. The big question mark is the tight end spot on offense.
There we go. Those are your main focal points.
Main focal points to get done.
All right. Now, going into next year, like you already said, having the bullseye on your back and everything, does your personal mindset change, or does it always stay the same?
Well, it's a different year because you realize that everybody's expecting you to be good again. And because you win a state championship, they're going to rank you number 1 in that first poll that comes out. And everybody's going to see who that it is. I want us to live up to our, not necessarily our billing, but I want to live up to the potential that this next team has had. Because them seniors are gone. It's just a new group. And it's a different group. Now, you got a bunch of your same Euclids coming back. But I really want to, and it's all about reaching your potential. And that's what this team needs to do. So that's what my focus is about.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, before we get out of here, I always like to ask guys this right here. Years from now, you look like you got a lot left in the tank. Just by talking to you.
I don't know. I'm pretty old.
You keep working them 100-hour work weeks. I don't know. But years from now, when you do finally, call it quits and step down as a coach and just kind of ride off into the sunset, what do you hope these young men that you've coached over the years take away from that into their day-to-day lives?
Well, I hope that when they think of me, that it's positive. I don't want to think about the time that I've disciplined them. I want them to think of me as the love that I tried to show them and try the influence that I've had on their lives was positive. I'm sure there's kids out there that has played for me that can't stand me. And obviously whether it's my fault or their fault or whatever the reason is, I hate that. But, I want them to look back and realize the things that we were trying to teach them and to do was really better for their life. That's what it was. Because this job, if as a head coach, football coach, if you don't realize this, then you got it all messed up. I'm in the kid business. That's the type of business that I'm in. I deal with kids, and I mold kids' lives each and every day. And if you got any other objective other than that, any other goal, you're wrong. You're doing it for the wrong reasons. So we're here to help these kids and get these kids to be successful. And I hope, and I've had, obviously as a coach, you have people that thank me every day or come back and see me every time they see me, hug my neck. That's what makes this job worthwhile doing right there.
That's right. Molding guys into being better men and husbands.
That's exactly right. Help our society.
There we go. Hey, we need all that.
We need all the help we can get.
Hey, we're going to subcontract you out some other areas. Coach, it's been a pleasure sitting in with you and also your daughter. That was a tremendous benefit for this video and probably a lot of people that knows her around the state. That's going to be really cool for them to check out. Coach, thank you so much and looking forward to coming back. This won't be the last time we're down here, I promise you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for having me today.